What do MDs do? With Mike Rodel.
Hello, so today I'm joined by Matthew Lloyd, Managing Director of 3LR Lighting, Chair of the Professional Lighting and Sound Association, commonly known as Plaza, and the Clipper 2002 Around the World Yachtsman. 3LR Lighting is a specialist lighting company based in the UK that delivers visually striking, state-of-the-art and sustainable lighting solutions to venues of all sizes. It works across all aspects of lighting projects, from consultancy to project management and installation of lighting solutions. So thank you for taking the time to join me, Matt.
Good morning, Mike. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much. So before we get into MD chat, can you tell me a little bit about being a yachtsman? What's that?
Oh, wow. Blimey. So I've worked in theatre since 1986. So I left out of school in the lower sixth as deputy head boy, doing lots of school plays and stuff, having previously nearly been expelled 4 years before. So lighting really saved me. Got my follow spot when I was 14 for the school show in the Little Theatre, and I fell in love with it instantly. And I was very lucky. I think being 14 and realising I wanted to do something I really loved and cared about was great for me. It was the first thing I liked that was good for me at that age. And then got into theatre. So I've worked from 1986 full time in the industry professionally through Redgrave for 5 years and then Stage Electrics for 10 years, and had a really good time and loved it. But I remember my dad saying to me, "You're not saving lives. You're working really hard. You're working crazy hours.
Yeah.
You need to think about your life balance." And I think when your parents say something like that, who know you inside out, it sort of stays in. That really made my brain unsettle a bit. And then we had some various budget things and activity at stage, and so I decided I'm going to take a year out. So I said to my boss at the time, David Whitehead, who was the founder of Stage Electrics Morris, and I said to him, I'd like to give a year's notice. I'd like to say I want to do a round the yacht race.
Wow.
And he was gracious and lovely. He said that really encouraged me to do it, and that was brilliant. And I did round the yacht race, and that was a life-changing experience. It was teaching about teamwork. Completely different area, completely different zone. You go on an average speed of 7 to 10 miles an hour around the world. You sail into Hong Kong, which is the other side of the planet. I think I got it by wind, and really good atmosphere, great teamwork. It was a real reset for me, actually. So I wrote a business plan in the Panama Canal for my former company, GDS Global Design Solutions, which I formed in 2004 when I came back. But I wrote the plan in the Panama Canal, 5-page executive summary, business plan sort of thing. And I'd always wanted to do my own business, but I'd never had the opportunity or really had the bravery to do it. It takes a big step to do your own thing or to become an MD. So we started that company in 2004, just two of us. It grew to a company of 50 staff operating in 38 countries. So it was a wonderful experience. Didn't end in the way I wanted it to, but that's the way the cookie crumbled, and then led on to 3LR. So that was my first experience of MD at GDS. But then going back to the race, it's really funny. The core thing about being part of a crew on a yacht, the first ocean crossing, you're learning how to sail the boat properly. Obviously, your training covers you for that. But once you've done the Atlantic, the skipper said, "You'll sail this boat better than I do," and he's a professional sailor. Wow. And so you really get into a really great rhythm as a crew. And we were lucky on Bristol. We insisted on having fun, doing well, being safe. Actually, having fun, being safe, and doing well. And we all got on very well. And the humour was a big part of the boat. And there's some really stressful situations like big storms, and people had just joined us on a leg change, and they were really scared. And I remember constantly thinking, in hindsight, I could have said, "Yep, we're out of control. This is really scary. We could bin at any minute." Or I could say, no, this is totally fine. Don't worry. Hold on. I'm right with you. This is normal. And we chose that one. And actually later in life in business, everything I learned on the boat. So we had a constant mantra of what makes the boat go faster. And if you're not doing that, what are you doing? And if you apply that to business, whatever the business is, what's the direction you want to take it? You want to take the staff with you. That was a really great communicative way of saying, is this making the boat go faster? Are we going in the right direction? Are you all part of that flow and direction? And I've learned that with my previous company, GS, much bigger headcount, and with 3LR, that everybody is part of the process and everyone has their specialty skills. And you surround yourself with a team who are really good at what they do, much better than I could do any of their skills. And my job is to coordinate that and bring that together and make sure that we're all going in the right direction and making the boat go faster, which is so the sailings. Yes, it was a little 25 years ago, but it's 20 years ago, but it's really stayed with me in the lessons. It's a great team building, communication, and the other thing actually funny on the race is you're in the middle of an ocean, right? It's the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which takes 12 weeks to cross. So you can't be rescued by a boat. No. You can't be rescued by a helicopter. So you basically have to wait for international shipping to help you if there was an issue. And what that makes you realize is you have to work with what you've got.
Yeah.
And a lot of businesses, and certainly the MD role, it's really easy to say, well, that person doesn't do that very well, or that I haven't got this skill set here, or I don't have that. And actually you need to say, no, I have a team here. I'm going to get the best out of them I can, and we're going to do the best we can do with that. And when we can afford to add or make a change and so on, then you do that in that way. But to always make the best of what you've got. And with staff, I always say, if someone moans about somebody else, you say, well, hang on, that's not their skill set. Their skill set is this. We're asking them to do that, and they're doing their best, in which case that's all you can ask. And it's some of those lessons on the race were, invaluable. Life lessons, which I then applied to business and to friends and life and family. But wonderful experience.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, it's always kind of interesting, these kind of experiences that are, there's that transferable learning and growth and stuff that comes from them, and being able to apply it to other things. It's always quite interesting hearing different things that have done that for people. And sailing. I mean, how long did it take to go around the world?
So we left Liverpool in October of 2004. Sorry, 2002, and we came back in the September of 2003. It was 6 legs. We went around the world, westbound, so east to west, to down across the Atlantic, through the Caribbean, up to Hawaii, down through Asia, across the Indian, bottom of Cape Town, and then across the Atlantic again, up to New York and across the top. And it was an amazing adventure. And actually, the other thing it did is, up until that point, I'd been working very hard to Stage Electrics, and I've been doing lots of work in theatres. I'm based in the west, based in the southwest, and I think I hadn't looked beyond that, and I wasn't aware there's a world out there. And when I did the round yacht race, it really opened up to people, the amount of people on the planet, different cultures, food, ways of life. And there's theatres in Hong Kong, and there's theatres in Shanghai, and there's theatres in Cape Town. And actually, why do I just worry about the UK? Well, I'm not looking globally and thinking bigger. So GDS, which was the company we started, was Global Design Solutions Limited.
Right.
And that was very specific, that I said it's going to be a global company from day one, even though there was 2 of us working out of an office in Bristol.
Yeah.
And we did consultancy, it was always going to be a global company. And we had 3 values. Any product we wanted to consider making had to be protectable, niche, and global. So you had to manufacture for a global standard. It could be protectable, and it's a niche market. And we stuck to that for all the products we made. And we won 16 Industry Innovation Awards, and it grew phenomenally. It was a wonderful journey. And we did some wonderful things. So it was great. But so you think about some of those values, and you apply them, and it does work. So it's amazing how you learn lessons in life as you go on. From different scenarios that you then use somewhere else. And like you say, with friends and family and things, even things that come from work into that and the other way around, is always quite interesting how those things kind of link together. Maybe I'll sign up and do a yachting excursion. I'm a little nervous on a pedalo, so I'm not really sure how well that'll go. But I think if you did say, do a ski season or go to another country for a period of time, because we can work online now. Yes, I think a break, we can push ourselves a lot further than we realise until you do it. And then when you do it, you're like, didn't think I could do that. Yeah. And actually, it's a really good thing to do in anything you're doing. I mean, also coming back to being an MD, it's hard to run a business and to push yourself and the company and the staff. I always believe in the gut reaction. So MDing, if I think about something, it normally takes me a few days, and then I'm like, actually, no, that is definitely the right thing to do. Right, well, then let's find a way. And in 2007, we won a competition, and I had the privilege of having lunch with Simon Woodruff, Patrick Woodruff's brother. Simon's the founder of Yo Sushi. And he told me his story over lunch where he nearly went bust. He was 2 weeks going bust. And we founded Yo, and he came around the restaurant in Covent Garden. There was a queue around the block. So he knew he'd made it at that point. And one of the things he said to me that I've never forgotten, he said, Matt, one of the tricks to life is step outside your comfort zone. Stay outside long enough for your comfort zone to grow, because it always will. And it was the always will bit that I thought, really? And then I've sort of applied that, and he's right. And it really does work. So whilst running a business is very scary because the buck stops with you, you have your team, but the ultimate responsibility if it goes wrong stops with you. So to have that belief or have a mechanism to go, actually, do I think it's right? Yes, I do. Right. Well, then let's go and find a way to make it happen. And that means step outside your comfort zone and doing things and trying things normally don't come right, because your comfort zone always catches up. So it's that was a wonderful advice I've always kept with me. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think the kind of it's how you learn new things as well. You know, putting yourself in you should put yourself in scenarios that are uncomfortable. You know, to a point. I mean, I have a hard line that I won't ever do karaoke, but there are other things where you put yourself into situations that are uncomfortable, but apply that kind of lens of I'm gonna trust my gut. I have to have a bit of trust in myself that it's going to be okay, and I'll figure it out and kind of learn from that process. I think that's how you grow, right? As a person.
He or she who never fails never succeeds. No fear. Like you only learn from your mistakes. So if you've made a couple of things there. So one is people will say I'm not ready to make a decision, and I've learned over the years now, I'm much older, it's better to make the wrong decision and learn from it and move on. Make the right decision than to make no decision. No decision is the worst case scenario. If you just ignore something because it's really bothering you, that's the worst place to be for me. So I always say, well, I don't know which one to do, so I'll try this one, see what happens. And then, that was wrong. Okay, now I know that was wrong. Let's go back to the direction. So that's always been, I've learned that. And the other thing is people we're obsessed with growth, which is important, right? A business has to develop. But a lot of people look at growth and don't think about the net profit. So you get busy as a company, but you start making less money. Yeah. And that's definitely the term busy fools is very well known. And profits sanity, turnover is vanity. Yeah. I've learned having gone through that with manufacturing, which is a breakneck speed, R&D, service backup, innovation, new markets. It's crazy all the time. And now it's to walk slowly in the right direction. And I really believe in that we know where we want to go as 3LR. We are growing, we're developing, but we're doing it at the pace we want to do it, not because we have to grow fast. Yes. We actually let's just go and do this. Let's do it at our pace and do it at the speed we want to do it. And that's so much better. And also as MDs, we can sometimes we're so stressed, we're so manic. It's like, oh my God, the end of the world. And Dad said to me, is anyone going to die if you make a mistake? And I said, no. Because then why are you worrying about it? Yeah. And you sort of put it into that. And obviously the world is a very complicated place at the moment. But but sometimes you can get too wrapped up and too serious about the stress you're going through, and sometimes to take a step back, which the yacht race gave me that ability. Yeah. And you step back and you look, and you think, okay, I need to calm down. Like it's okay. Yeah. And put an out of office on and put, at last I've left the office. Back next week. Don't email me. Take the occasion to do that. But as MDs, you tend to feel sometimes it can be hard. Cash is hard, business is hard. It can be a really tough place to be, and it's hard. It's important to try and have little breaks and mechanisms to step back and take out from that, because it can be really tough without time. It can be lonely as well. So it's good to have your friends, your family around you. I'm very lucky for that. I have an amazing family. They've always been supportive, always supported me, backed me 100%. And I wouldn't be doing what I do now without that support and teamwork. So I'm very lucky for that. I'm grateful for that. But it's very important to have that. Or have friends and reach out to people and say, look, I'm really stressed. She fancy a cup of coffee and just sit and chat. Yeah. It's a very good thing to do. Problem shared is problem hard, which being an MD sometimes is exactly what you need.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy, isn't it, to kind of look at everything and apply a kind of almost like blanket priority to all of these things happening. And remember, you're not saving lives here. And taking a little bit of, particularly I find, in a creative sense that taking a step out, if I'm stumped for ideas, and even just going for an hour's walk or hanging the washing, or like you say, taking after trade shows, for example, I tend to take a couple of days, particularly if it happens to be in a nice part of the world, and that's where you come up with all your best ideas, and those things that you're kind of racking your mind over, you're now able to kind of go, and it hits you on a drive in a Spanish motorway somewhere. You go, oh, that's what I could do. I
think the other good thing is we try and I've always tried to put a break in, so you work on the business, not in the business. Yeah. So you spend half a day, ideally once every few months, and you come out of the business and you deliberately go away from that, turn your phones off, and just chat about what we're doing, where we're going. Are we doing the right thing? We said we would do this. Are we doing that? Yeah. And have a double check on yourself. And I try and walk the dog every day, 6K. And you're absolutely right. I listen to podcasts, but I'll then think about an idea and come back and write that down. So it's always the unusual places where you come up with crazy ideas. So no, it's good. I agree that it's very good to get your breaks in, and not to feel guilty with that. We can all do 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. in the office. No problem. Like you can ease, and the work will never go away. So actually, it's about managing your time and saying, no, I'm going to take an hour out, go for a walk, come back, and crack on. And the most important person in your life is you, because if you're not 100%, you can't be there for everyone else.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't think about that, and you do have to do it that way around.
Yeah.
Because then you keep yourself in the right place to be there for everyone else all the time. So.
Yeah, kind of. I think it's one of those things where, it can kind of feel when you're in those weeks where it's crunch, and like you say, you are there doing the longer hours, and it feels like you're firefighting. That to take that kind of, it feels counterproductive to go, well, I'm going to take the afternoon off. I'm going to take an hour and a half to go and do this thing, because it's like, well, I could get this done and this done, but you always come back feeling better. I mean, it's the same with exercise, right? In your personal life, you kind of think, oh, but instead of going and doing that, I could just quickly sort this out. And you always come back feeling better if you've done that bit. And then the problem you were facing is, it's only a 10-minute problem now.
It's a really important discipline to do, and not to feel guilty, because the work will never not be there.
Yes, so you always be able to feel.
Never win that one. It's like the waterfall; it's just going to keep going. So have a break and come back to it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Completely. Yeah. So I think that as I get older, I've learning these things. If I spoke to myself when I first started the first business in 2002, I definitely would have said, "Look, calm down. Yeah, it will come. Yes, be ambitious, but don't have to run into everything. Have to be manic all the time." And the hours I was putting in, but also, equally, I love what I do. I love lighting, always have done, and so it's not a chore to me. I love Mondays as much as Fridays. Yeah. And when I've been away, I wind my wife up by coming back, and I'm like, she goes, "What's wrong?" I goes, "Well, I've got to go to work tomorrow. I can see what's happening, Yeah. She's like, "We're still on holiday." So, so we have a good laugh with that. So I'm really lucky. Yeah. And if you're not in the same place, then it is a slightly different challenge. But still, some of the basic rules apply. But putting yourself first to make sure you're there.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, no, that's really good advice. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to take some of that and make sure I remember it and apply it. So just kind of thinking of, a little less kind of bigger picture and more practically. I mean, what's a week like for you? Is there such a thing as an average week, or are they so wildly different each time?
I think one of the silver linings of COVID, which was an awful thing for everyone to go through, but the silver lining has been that it's totally okay to work remotely. And 3LR, we have a studio in Somerset, and have the rest of the team work from home, and we try and meet up in London, various partners, VTC, etc. And we try and do that. So everything else is on the phone and on Teams, which is brilliant. But you do miss the face-to-face. So we do all try and see each other quite a lot. We do businesses, we do a lot of work in London, and we'll meet on various projects. But typically a week will be to catch up on the Monday, see how everyone's doing. I like to manage on a project task rather than how many hours you're working and what you do at lunchtime and are you having a coffee break. I'm not interested in that. We all know what we've got to do this week. Have we agreed we're going to do it? Yes, great. Any problems, let me know. Otherwise, how are you getting on? And then we have a catch up during the week and we make sure the jobs get done. And I find the team really motivated by that because they feel you trust them. They're empowered to do their job. And if they have a problem, they come to you. And of course, if it does go wrong, you then have to have the conversation and say, look, what's gone wrong? And I always say to everyone, it's okay to make a mistake. Just don't make the same one twice.
Yes. Yeah.
Learn from it. And I think that's a good way to, no one should be scared of making a mistake. And it's totally okay. And so if you have that. So, so our weeks are pretty busy. Some weeks are crazy. Yeah. And we'll have like 15 projects on the go at design stage, specification stage, site visits, supporting the dealer networks of VTC and the like. And then other weeks will be calmer and we can catch up on everything we haven't done. Yeah. I think also we're a good barometer for the specification side of the industry, architectural lighting control. So if we're really busy, then there's a project development, there's a project pipeline. And so our work is really a 3-year pipeline circle maximum. Wow. So we'll do something now and 3 years later it will come to fruition. So we're getting orders now for stuff we worked on 3 years ago. Oh, so wow. It's and it can be from 6 weeks up to 3 years. So there's always something going on, and we're 6 years in now. So there's always stuff coming in, and that's the other thing actually. When you get a bit older, when you have quiet weeks, you're like, oh my god, it's quiet. What do I need to do? And then actually to also have a bit of trust that no, it'll come right. I'll enjoy this couple of calmer days, and then it comes that. So it's good. So the week's raced by actually. Yeah. Travel, we try and keep travel to when we need to, use public transport when we can, and into London probably weekly. I've been doing that for years, and that, there's always a lot going on there. But also a lot of our customers are friends, so we get on very well with them. We have a good laugh with them, so it's not a chore in that respect. So so that's the average week really. But we're getting busier doing project spec, which is great. So there's a lot in the summer coming up, which is good. So
Yeah.
loving life.
Awesome. You touched on a little point there about a lot of your clients being friends. We kind of, similar with us really as an agency as well. I think one of the things we're quite privileged about is that a lot of our clients we would consider friends, and hanging out with them isn't a chore, and meeting with people and doing all that part of it. And I think particularly in the lighting, the pro AV, the kind of all the crowd at ISEs, Infocoms, plazas, and those types of shows, it's still such a people-led thing. And we're kind of much like what you're doing, creating environments and spaces for people, and then all the relationships behind it. I think that's so important to kind of keep up.
The great Fred Foster, who founded ETC, had a lovely saying of "have fun and make money." I think that really encapsulates our industry, in that a lot of people have a great story to tell of how they got into the industry or how they formed a business. And we're not a very corporate-led industry, where there was a few mergers and a few big players, but on the whole, we're more independent. And so people want to talk about that. And the golden rule of sales is people buy people first. So if you have a relationship with someone and it's great, and you can ask about their business and them, and you build a friendship, then when they want to do something, they can ring you and say, "Hey, can you look at this?" You're like, "Of course I can. Let me have a look at it." And our business very, very much leans on a lot of that type of communication and community. But there's obviously there's the other side as well, cold calling and meeting someone for the first impression. But we're very lucky that our industry is very sociable in that respect. And I go to some, like you say, you go to some trade shows, and you're out in the evening having dinner with people who are lovely to hang out with, and you're chatting about work, but also the world. And you think, wow, this is my job, and it's wonderful. It's a great industry for them.
Yeah, no, it really is. I think that's seeing the kind of how shows have returned so much after the pandemic. Like Plaza, where we met for the first time last year. Those environments exist, and you meet people that you just wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. If I'd not met you in person at an event and just sent you LinkedIn messages, you probably would have been, I'm a busy, what's in this for me? But then you kind of get, that's what's so great about it, is you get the opportunity to meet people and make some sort of connection, and at some point there might be some business that happens, but at some point it's it's just a nice group of people in the space that we're in.
I think all associations and trade shows have to continue to innovate to make sure that the people who are paying lots of money to be there to generate business applies to their business and does apply to their bottom line. But then by having that platform, you create this great social network. Plaza Focus Leeds is one of the smaller shows on the calendar, but it has one of the most passionate followings, and people love it because they go and chat. It's a really nice atmosphere, and they catch up with everybody, and they really value that. So actually that part of a trade show is still really high up there. So as Plaza Chair and the amazing team at Plaza Limited and the voluntary board, we are all focusing on how to remain relevant and to listen and to build and to think about members' businesses and how whatever product Plaza Limited want to do, we try and help them guide that to being useful and relevant to their membership. And Plaza's a good place at the moment. We're not taking that for granted, but we're in a strong place from having had a pre-COVID and all the excitement back there 10 years ago. And the team are amazing. And it's great to be part of that as a volunteer. And I really, really love it. And again, working with brilliant people and continue to try and bring those platforms up and work on standards and training for the industry. So it's, Plaza, along with all the other associations, they all do a cracking job. So it's very active and busy, which is good.
And do you find, with the work that you do with Plaza alongside running 3LR, that you're going back to that point of transferable, and kind of the benefit of you, it must also take up some of your time to be able to do that. And as we've said before, it's not like running a business is a particularly part-time job. So in terms of that value that comes two ways, there must be some learning that comes from one, different groups of people with different challenges. Is there kind of a few points there that are...
I think for me, so when I left Stage Electrics, I was doing lots of West End rentals, so I was a big player. We did a third of the West End. So in terms of equipment specification, line designers, that was our decision, Stage Electrics. So we were big players. So everyone wanted to see me. When I came back, having done the round one yacht race, and came back to Plaza, I actually paid to go to my first Plaza show as GDS, paid to go in, which I now find bizarre. And we did a backstage working light called Blue System, which is still the market leader and ETC own that now, and it's installed all over the world in every major theatre you can think of. Blue systems in it. And when I came back to the Plaza show floor, it was interesting seeing the different reactions from people about, oh, you're doing that now, and there was some were interested, some weren't. But Plaza were always really supportive, and they were right there for me. And like the magazine said, look, if you want us to do something about the article, and they were always a really safe place, and the network that Plaza had. So I think for me, I've been on the board since 2011, so that's 15 years. So yeah, 15 years now, and being chair, yes, is a lot more time commitment. But I think I've always wanted to give back, and I think it's really important to do that, to give back to younger people who are trying to come in and find places and listen to other friends and customers. And the work they do is really, really invaluable. And the volunteer status of the board, who are all volunteers, and there's a really good board. I mean, there always has been, but they're really strong at the moment. And to have those people involved is brilliant, and that really rubs into what we do and shows the industry that Plaza's there as, it's a membership organisation, and members are there volunteering to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help make that work. And so it's brilliant. So, and I think for the younger generation, we just appointed a new young person onto the board we've got a meeting next week and in June. And that's for us to understand how the younger generation communicate, how they see the industry, what they want from it, how they want to develop, so we can make sure that Plaza's listening to that and growing forward with that. It's so important. And that's really Plaza's as it is, to have our platform for everyone. So it's it's good.
Nice. Yeah, there's a good point there, isn't there, with the kind of, knowing what you don't know. We're saying, you kind of have to be open to taking perspective and lived experiences and stuff from other people, and to kind of deliver something that meets the needs, of the members in the industry. Awesome. But look, one more question for you. If there's one piece of advice that you'd give me as a new MD, something I should listen to and live, what would that be?
Remember, if it was easy, anyone would do it.
Yeah.
So it's meant to be hard being MD. Trust your instincts and empower your staff.
Awesome. Cool.
And let them make mistakes and help them learn by it. Yeah. That's what I do.
Nice. Cool. Well, look, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on here. Any questions for Matt, I'll tag you in the post and just drop some comments or whatever.
Love it.